We are running out of words for the tear that Paolo Banchero is on, so what's another 10 minutes today on Locked On Magic?
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is March 26, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic get their third straight win. That is a winning streak, folks. It has happened before. It is happening again as they gut out one against Charlotte Hornets, 111-104. Why we're running out of words for Paolo Banchero and why he's not the reason they won and not the improvement for why they won this game. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can make Locked On Magic even bigger part of your day with the Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter, the one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic Newsletter. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. We've done a lot of segments on Paolo Banchero. We've done a lot. It has been a crazy run for Banchero in March specifically, but since the All-Star break in reality. We are, of course, sort of obsessed with stardom. We are sort of obsessed with trying to kind of piece together what a superstar looks like. You know, Dwight Howard just got inducted into the Orlando Magic Hall of Fame. We know that he is a superstar, a player that by his mere presence makes you a contending team, makes you a team that matters, makes you a team that can win any game, the kind of player that can carry you through things. And the reality is the Magic kind of have two of those players right now. And the Magic have not had two of those players, again, since Shaq and Penny in 1995 and 96. We've done so many episodes over the last week about what Paolo's doing and why it matters, why it means so much to not just what the team is trying to do this year, but what the team is going to become over the next several years. Yes, that max contract is coming. We'll do that episode on July 1st. That's our July 1st episode. There'll be a lot of free agent stuff. Paolo Banchero signing his max contract or agreeing to his max contract, because he won't be able to sign it yet, will be part of that next stage. But this stuff just keeps happening. It is becoming normal, and frankly, I don't want it to become normal. We've been lost in the desert for so long. We've had players like this, and it just became so normal. You get disappointed when they don't meet impossibly high expectations. Against the Charlotte Hornets on Tuesday, Paolo Banchero scored 32 points, grabbed 7 rebounds, and dished out 6 assists. All against 2 turnovers, by the way. Very efficient game. He shot 13 for 24 from the floor, 2 for 8 from 3, 4 for 6 from the foul line. When the Magic needed buckets, when the Magic needed stability, they turned to Paolo. And Paolo continues to deliver. For Banchero, this was his 4th straight game of 30 or more points. Something that only 4 players in Magic history have done. Dwight Howard, Shaquille O'Neal, and Tracy McGrady being the other 3. Not only that, he's the first player to do it since Dwight Howard did it in 2011. So again, it's been 14 years since the Magic have had a player of this caliber. And the only thing keeping Paolo Banchero from winning Eastern Conference Player of the Week, which Kobe White has won the last 2 weeks, they're doing very similar things, is the Magic aren't winning. Well, guess what? That's not Paolo's fault. But guess what? Now the Magic are winning. And again, we just don't want this to feel common, to feel normal, to feel so regular that it is beyond recognition, beyond just taking a moment to step back and think about this. Since the All-Star break, Paolo Banchero is still second in the league in scoring. 29.6 points per game. Magic, again, 2 games under 500, or 3 games under 500 now, are 7-9 since the All-Star break. Paolo is shooting 47.5% from the floor, 36.9% from 3, and 80.6% from the foul line. Still areas to improve. He has 7.3 rebounds per game and 4.2 assists per game, again, against 2.4 turnovers per game. That's since the All-Star break. In 11 games in March, where the Magic are 5-6, Paolo Banchero is averaging 30 points per game, 49.8% shooting, 41.2% from 3, 84% from the foul line, with 7.7 rebounds per game and 4.2 assists per game. Only one other Eastern Conference player has a higher scoring average than Paolo in March. And that would be Jalen Brunson, who's played only 3 games. Essentially, let's just keep it real here. With a week to go in the month, the race for Eastern Conference Player of the Month is between Paolo Banchero and Coby White. Maybe you could throw Giannis in there. He's at 27.9 points per game. He's had an incredible season, 11.5 rebounds per game. They're 7-6 too. Coby White and the Bulls are 8-4. But again, let's take a step back. We're talking about a player up for a Conference Player of the Month award. That is not something the Magic have had in a very, very long time. And getting back to Tuesday's game, which may or may not matter, but getting back to Tuesday's game, Paolo simply took over parts of this game. When the Magic needed baskets, when the Magic needed plays, when the Magic needed calm and stability, Paolo delivered it. When the Magic needed someone who could get his own shot and shoot it with confidence, Paolo delivered it. We'll even talk about where he didn't deliver and where teammates still stepped up for him. Paolo has said this numerous times. He is feeling healthy again. After going through the oblique injury, being out for 8 weeks, missing however many games he missed, so many games, missing all that time and struggling to kind of find his rhythm, Paolo has found it again and has resumed the leap we all saw him take at the beginning of the season. For anyone who questions his efficiency, who questions all that, Paolo is showing us what the efficient version of Paolo Banchero looks like. And it is the reason why he is going to be one of the best players in this league. I've said this a million times, as disappointed as everybody associated with the Magic should be with this season and where this season has ended up and how this season has played out. It is still ultimately going to be positive because Paolo Banchero became this. His development took him to this level. Some way, somehow, one day, eventually, Paolo got to this level. And Franz Wagner has gotten there too. I don't want to put Franz down. We'll talk about him when we talk about the box score at the end of the show. But Paolo is the kind of player that does elevate a team with his skill set, that can reach this higher level, that when defenses are loaded against him, still has a way to beat them. I believe it, the Lakers tried, the Hornets tried. Nobody's been able to stop him. He's playing the best basketball of his young career, and there is no reason to think he will not get better. So like I said, even after 9.5 minutes, I'm out of words for Paolo. This has become normal. Him dropping 30 with ease, picking apart defenses, rising up for those mid-range floaters and mid-range jumpers and turnarounds and fadeaways, bullying his way to the basket, finishing in transition, pulling up for 3. It has become normal. It has become what we expect from him on this run. And after proving himself in last year's playoffs as one of the elite young players in the league, after bouncing back from this injury, Paolo's only going to keep doing this. So just enjoy the ride, recognize the history you're seeing, and hope that the Magic are able to find a way to take advantage of this incredible time period. Because the way the Magic won this game was not Paolo Banchero. Paolo got them to the finish line. There's a couple of unexpected players who got them over. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. There is nothing like watching basketball live. The energy of the crowd, the sound of sneakers on the hardwood, maybe even a celebrity sighting courtside. If you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. You can check the Game Time app, and they have amazing deals on huge matchups coming up. We've, of course, got 3 games coming up at the Kia Center, 3 humongous games. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Let's push. The Magic need to sell out the April 8th game against Atlanta. Biggest home game of the year, and then Fan Appreciation Night is the next night. Get your tickets now. It's going to be a huge, huge playoff-level game. Won't be the last time we see that team from Atlanta. Game Time Picks even highlight super deals, giving you the best bang for your buck. And with seat views before you buy, there are no surprise fees and a lowest price guarantee. You can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply, but create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. I still find that a lot of people want to talk to me about the offseason and what the Magic need to do and where the Magic are going to go and all that. And look, I appreciate that. I'm thinking about it myself too. We'll maybe do an offseason centered episode tomorrow. We still got 9 games left in the season. I still think the play-in is valuable. I still think the playoffs are valuable. Again, the play-in is valuable because it gives you like Game 7 playoff experience. It's not quite a Game 7, but it's a do-or-die game. You get to see a lot of guys play under pressure, and I think ultimately that is, for a young team, especially the Magic are still a young team, that is a good thing. The Magic lost a Game 7 last year. Put them in another Game 7. Put them in another must-win game. Let's see how they react. Let's see what they learned from that game. So I appreciate everyone trying to race ahead to the offseason. It is a big offseason for the Magic, and that is natural what comes out of a disappointing season like this. There is no getting around it. There is no changing it. There is no rearranging it. There's no sugarcoating it. The Magic are not where they want to be. Whether that 6-game gap between them and Detroit is purely because of injuries, whether it is something deeper, we are expecting the Magic to be very active this offseason. It is not going to be a standstill offseason for the Magic. And if it is, there will be problems because I think we all understand this team falls short in many, many ways. The season ultimately is frustrating, not just because of the injuries, but because so many players have fallen short of expectation. There were a lot of bets that Jeff Weltman made. They might have been rational bets. They might have been okay bets. They might have been bets that we regret now, but at the time seemed to make sense. There are a lot of bets that Jeff Weltman made this offseason that have not panned out. And again, the injuries revealed some of this. The injuries, kind of exposed warts that maybe weren't there. I've kind of described Anthony Black, who's had such an up and down season, as the Magic kind of threw him into the deep end. They said, we're going to get rid of Marco. We're going to let Marco Fultz walk. We're going to put Anthony Black, guarantee that Anthony Black is the backup point guard and see if he can swim. We threw him in the deep end, though the deep end was a little deeper than they thought it was. And maybe Anthony Black wasn't quite ready. But that's the thing. It's a long season. And especially for a player like Black, there's time for him to develop. There's time for him to get better, to get more comfortable, to kind of find himself. And a game like Tuesday night was a game where he and several other key players found themselves and delivered in the way that the Magic have been asking for them to deliver all year. And again, better late than never, perhaps. Certainly disappointing that it's taken 71, 72 games to get there. But we got there. And Tuesday night was a night for everybody else. Anthony Black scored 20 points. Had the tip dunk, had the putback dunk that secured the lead for good, that put the Magic up by 2. Off a Paolo missed 3, Anthony Black delivered a humongous play. That's on top of all the other great defense that he played. On the possession before, Gary Harris, who has been just abysmal this year, grabbed a key offensive rebound, his 5th rebound of the night. Got the ball back to Paolo Banchero. He hit a short jumper and gave the Magic a 3-point lead. Hornets tied it on the next possession. But then after Black had the putback dunk, the Magic were able to get the ball out of LaMelo Ball's hands to Jean Salon, tried attacking the basket. Wendell Carter with perfect verticality blocked the shot. Magic get the ball. Franz Wagner gets the line. 4-point game. About 2 minutes to play. Then on the next possession, or a possession later, Gary Harris, hounding LaMelo Ball, forces him to dribble it off his foot out of bounds. There's no stat for that. There's no steal for that. Did not get credited with a steal. They're one of the most consequential plays of the game. And then finally, Wendell Carter, with the Magic up by 4, stepped up, defended LaMelo Ball, switched on to LaMelo Ball, kept him from even getting a 3-point shot off, got the ball out of his hands, and the Hornets just don't have the firepower right now outside of what LaMelo Ball creates to cause the Magic any problems. The Magic held the Hornets scoreless over the last 2 minutes of the game. And it's because of this team effort. It was because, frankly, of those 3 players and the big-time plays, the little plays that may not even show up in a box score, the stealing of possession back, the extending of a possession, the stop that changed this game. Anthony Black, Gary Harris is just such a great example of this resiliency and of the way that the Magic had to play in this game. Gary Harris for the season has just fallen off a cliff. 30.9% shooting from 3 entering the game. Take out the 6 for 9 showing he had on opening night against the Heat. He's shooting 26.4% from 3. He's played 38 games and has gone scoreless in 18 of them. He has been a non-factor all year, and that's before we get to the injuries. As a 3-point specialist, it's impossible to play a 3-point specialist who doesn't make threes. But over the last several games, Harris has reestablished himself. His defense has been excellent. He hounds players. He's just smart. He catches them by surprise a little bit in the backcourt. He helped turn that game around. Him and Anthony Black tag teamed in that third quarter to turn the game around in Cleveland. And so in a season high 29 minutes, Gary Harris scored 6 points on 2 for 4 shooting from 3, added 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and completely changed the game. The shooting is a bonus from Harris at this point, just the way this season's gone. But he defended so well. The Magic had to close with him. The same goes for Anthony Black. Black has been up and down all year too, but he finished with 20 points on 8 for 18 shooting. Made only 2 of his 8 3-pointers, but the aggression is the point. Since in March, Black is averaging 9.1 points per game, shooting 48.6% from the floor and 46.2% from 3. He's scored in double figures now in 4 of his last 5 games. It's been a call all year for Anthony Black to be more aggressive, to get downhill, to get to the basket, to not be afraid to shoot. And he's finally seeing the message. And so, yes, Black played excellent defense, like energetic, excellent defense. Now he's adding the offense to boot. 17 points against the Lakers on Monday, 20 against the Hornets on Tuesday, including that big putback dunk that gave the Magic the lead for good. He's not playing afraid. He's playing free, and it's made the Magic that much better. And then there's Carter. Wendell Carter struggled all season. His scoring and shooting are not where the Magic want it to be. In March, he's still averaging 9.8 points and 7.5 rebounds per game. Since the All-Star break, it's 9.8 points and 8.6 rebounds per game. He still only posted 5 points, but he grabbed 11 rebounds and his defensive versatility, his ability to get out on LaMelo Ball, guard him on the perimeter, just like he was able to guard Luka Doncic on the perimeter on Monday night, that's what makes Wendell Carter valuable. That's what makes Wendell Carter. And the fact of the matter is, the Magic are in this fight. The Magic won this game because of those plays. And again, not all of them show up on a box score. Not all of them are so easily found. It is, as Jamal Mosley said for the first time, and it feels like in a long time, a by committee approach. The Magic will find the players that the game needs. And those players will hopefully step up and reveal themselves. With the confidence this team is playing with the shooting this team has had recently, that is happening a lot more. And to get this kind of game, to get some more consistency from Anthony Black, to get consistency from Wendell Carter, to get consistency from Gary Harris, that's what can elevate this Magic team. On the second night of a back-to-back with a tired team, a very clearly tired team, and I know that's an excuse, but it's the reality. They needed the energy. Gary Harris was sick, was not feeling good. He stepped up, stepped into that role, and played incredibly. The Magic don't win this game without Gary Harris. And to see this group begin to find themselves and this whole team begin to find themselves, that's critical as the Magic get closer to the playoffs. So the margin for error is only going to get smaller from here. Let's run through the rest of the box score. We'll talk about Franz Wagner's game, the three-point shooting problems, and that yucky third quarter. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. Let's run through the final box scores. The Orlando Magic defeat the Charlotte Hornets 111-104. They sweep the Charlotte Hornets. I believe it was the first time they've swept the Charlotte Hornets since 2011. So always a good win against the Hornets. Several players cited that game in Charlotte last April. I was at that game. Very disappointing game, one of the last road games of the season. They all cited that game in Charlotte as they approached this game. They did not want to drop this game. And look, the Magic got a big win. Atlanta lost to Houston. They're back to a half game behind the Hawks in the standings. It's going to come down to those last two games against Atlanta at the end of the year. So, you can't obsess with the standings too much, but look, the Magic needed this win to keep pace. You expected Atlanta to lose to Houston. I don't think anyone's surprised by that. Orlando cannot afford to lose to Charlotte. Like that's a loss you can't have. Orlando maintains their lead in the division tiebreaker. If the Magic and Hawks split these last two games, the next tiebreaker is the division tiebreaker. Orlando's 10-4, Atlanta's 9-5, I believe. That's they're separated by one game. Atlanta still has two games against Orlando, and they play Miami later this week. Orlando still has the two games against Atlanta, and they play Washington. So Orlando definitely in line to clinch the division tiebreaker. Again, this stuff does matter. Division stuff does matter. It's going to be who determines the division champion potentially. But Orlando just has to kind of stay in range. If you're looking at the standings, Atlanta's going to have a game in hand until the 4-day break before the Hawks game, before the first Hawks game on April 8th. Get your tickets on Game Time now. The Magic just got to stay within range. If they can pass them, great. Get back control. Give yourself a cushion. But as things stand right now, Orlando does have to beat Atlanta probably both times. They probably still need both wins against Atlanta. But again, we will see. We got to get there first. So let's talk about how the Magic got there in this game, because it was not pretty. It very much felt like, in a lot of ways, a game where the Magic were clearly the more dominant team. Orlando had some brilliant moments in the first half, some moments where the ball moved really well. They got in the paint. Defense got stops. They, really limited what Charlotte could do. LaMelo Ball was in foul trouble early, took him out of the game. Charlotte didn't function well offensively without him. They took a 13-point lead. They really seemed like they were going to be in control. They led by 10 at the half. But you could kind of see some flaws, and those flaws all came out in the third quarter. The LaMelo Ball came out energized. The Hornets outscored Orlando 30-20 in the third quarter. It was like 22-4 run. They took a 7-point lead. Orlando had to fight back to tie the game heading to the fourth. It was rough, and some of it is just like Paolo and Franz both went through a little bit of a shooting slump. A lot of it was Orlando just settled for threes. The Magic shot 13 for 42 from three. Charlotte was 14 for 34. So they broke even a little bit there. But again, the efficiency from Charlotte making those shots changed things a little bit for Orlando. Orlando got a little foulsy. They fouled at least one three-point shooter in that stretch. They fouled LaMelo Ball and a couple and ones, helped them really pick up that deficit, pick up some energy, because the Magic just weren't locked in defensively. And again, they looked a little tired. They looked a little bit like they were on the second night of a back-to-back. And certainly some of the shot selections, the settling for three-pointers instead of attacking the basket, to me, that's completely shouts of a team that was tired, that was playing on a back-to-back. Orlando did outscore Charlotte 48-42 in the paint, but only 39 field goal attempts in the paint, 24 for 39. That means they took more threes than paint attempts. That's usually not a formula for the Magic. Orlando got away with it. They made enough threes to stay in this game. But they were just so much more efficient when they got downhill to the basket. And I think that's just going to be a battle the Magic have. Charlotte is a team that allows you to make mistakes. Like, let's be clear. In that first half, I did not think Orlando played like fantastic. They had some really good pockets where they expanded their lead, but every time they'd get it out to 10, it'd come back down to 5. They'd have to fight to get back out. It never felt like Orlando completely put the game away or completely took control of the game. They left that door open enough, and then they made some mistakes. Charlotte cut down their mistakes and their turnovers. They only had 11 turnovers in the game. They had 8 of those 11 turnovers in the first half, and Orlando did take advantage of turnovers as well. They only had 12 points off those 11 turnovers. Charlotte had 18 off Orlando's 11. Turnovers were not an issue in the game for the Magic, but once Charlotte cut off the turnovers, Orlando found the offense a little bit more difficult to find. Having said that, Paolo Banchero, 32 points, 13 for 24 shooting, 2 for 8 from 3, 4 for 6 from the foul line, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Another masterful game from him, played 35-46. Franz Wagner, a solid game from Franz. I wouldn't say it was an excellent game, but a solid game from Franz. 26 points, shot 8 for 22, 1 for 6 from 3, 9 for 10 from the foul line. So Franz did a good job getting to the line. Usually that's a Paolo thing. Franz did a good job forcing his way to the line, but he had some shots that he missed. He settled on threes a little bit too much to my liking. Some of them is just like hesitating too. Like Franz is clearly working through some things with a shot. And I think we can all see it. We don't need him to tell us that. We can see that he is. I feel like when he shoots without hesitation, when he doesn't think, he's still a very effective shooter. And he had a big shot late in that fourth quarter, just like he did against the Lakers on Monday. When he hesitates, when he has to pause, when he stops to think, that's when the shot gets like really iffy. That's when the shot looks really bad. Franz he's found himself a little bit, but this was a difficult game for him. I thought the second period, the first time Charlotte made a run at the lead, I felt like Franz, just like against the Lakers, really struggled to break down the defense on his own when he didn't have Paolo on the floor with him. Just wasn't able to get screens, like struggled dealing and reading the double teams. You know, some of it's just a confidence thing. Like he's able to get to the basket. Charlotte's just not a strong enough defensive team to bother him too much. But you know, the offense stalled a little bit more like that. It almost feels like, you know, for all the plus minus nerds, Franz was +2, Paolo was +1. So not much of a difference there. It kind of feels a little bit like the Paolo Franz role has switched, where now Paolo is the super efficient one, making all the great decisions. And Franz is the one kind of forcing shots and forcing mid-range shots. And again, like, this isn't to knock either one. They're both really, really good and going through the growing pains that you expect young players to go through. Franz is getting double teamed for the first time in his career. Like that's not debatable. And learning how to deal with double teams is a huge challenge. It's a huge point of growth. And Franz does it well sometimes. He struggles on other times. He's gonna learn. He's got to spend the first part of his summer getting his shot right, getting up as many shots as he can. But he's going to have to spend his summer learning how to read double teams, because guess what? Germany needs him to be able to read double teams when they play Eurobasket this summer. So a lot of work ahead for Franz, but he's shown us that he can do the work and that he's going to get better. That is not a question with this dude. And look, I can sit here and tell you like, oh, I'm not super thrilled with his game. He still scored 26 points and was key to the victory. So let's not pretend otherwise. Wendell Carter, I talked a little bit about him, 5 points, 11 rebounds, just a solid defensive presence. He had 2 blocks, including that big block at the end of the game. Yes, the shot needs to come around. 1 for 4 from 3, 2 for 5 from the floor overall. But Dell is playing some very good basketball. He knows what his role is now, and I feel like he's playing that very, very well. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a very quiet night, 3 points, 1 for 2 shooting. Got hit in the head in the second quarter, left. Gary Harris was just better, was just more impactful all around. Magic stuck with Gary Harris for most of the night. Again, he scored 6 points, 2 for 4 shooting. Anthony Black, another aggressive night, 20 points, 8 for 18 shooting, 2 for 8 from 3, 2 for 2 from the foul line, added 5 rebounds. Really aggressive play. Really love the way that AB's playing right now. When he's aggressive, he is a very good player, and just figuring out ways to get that out of him more, to kind of push him into that spotlight. Again, this season's going to be viewed as a failure. It's going to be viewed as a frustrating season. But if we exit this season with Anthony Black playing more like he did on Monday and Tuesday night more often, then it's all going to be worth it. Again, we don't know what Anthony Black's future might be. I think the Magic are still very invested and believe in him. If he continues to play like this, he's going to be a very, very good player in this league. Caleb Houston with another fantastic game. 4 for 7, 4 for 6 from 3. 12 points, just making threes, just comfortably making threes. He's entering the game, at halftime, he had made 16 of his last 31 threes. This guy is on a heater, and it's very clear why the Magic want him on the floor right now. It's not just that he is an excellent shooter and good rhythm right now. He defends really well too. And look, the Magic pulled away in the second quarter during his minutes. That's when he made the majority of his threes. A really, really nice game from Caleb Houston. The last note I want to make on this game before we close shop today. Orlando did run only a 9-man rotation. It has been very, very rare that Jamal Mosley runs a 9-man rotation. He almost always goes to a 10-man rotation. It frustrates some people. Certainly on the second night of a back-to-back, you expected a 10-man rotation. Mosley is certainly trying to avoid lineups that don't have either Paolo or Franz in them. One of them is on the floor at all times. That's why they're playing 36, 37, 38 minutes now. They both played 35 in this game, so definitely some consideration for the back-to-back on that front to limit their minutes, but make sure one of them is on the floor. In this game, Jonathan Isaac did not play. Coach's decision, purely coach's decision. Goga Bitadze played 21-43, was okay, 2 points, 9 rebounds, so did his job. Had some nice defensive plays as well throughout the course of his stint. Certainly, this was a little bit about matchups. Bitadze, generally with kind of bigger, gruffer centers like Yusuf Nurkic, Jamal Mosley wants Goga Bitadze out there. He's not putting Jonathan Isaac out on that kind of a player. So right now with the Magic kind of hunting for offense, they're definitely leaning away from Isaac. They're playing Houston a little bit more. Do they play the same position? I don't know. With Franz and Paolo's minutes going up, it definitely feels like Isaac's minutes are being squeezed. That doesn't mean Isaac's playing poorly. I thought he played well against the Lakers. I generally think he's been playing better overall defensively, starting to look more like himself defensively. And the Magic are going to need him at some point in the playoffs, whether they're playing the Celtics, whether they're playing the Cavs, whether they're playing the Hawks, whether they're playing the Bulls, the Heat, whoever, they're going to need him in the postseason. He's going to be valuable. He's going to make plays in the postseason when it matters. But right now, the wheel's just not turning in his favor. The Magic need other things, or they're looking for other things, or frankly, they just don't trust his offense. And he can be a real drain offensively when he is not able to hit shots. So it is interesting to see the Magic begin to shrink their rotation. We'll see if this becomes a trend. In this game, Orlando went tight with their rotation, leaned heavily on the's stars, leaned heavily on this matchup, and that left Jonathan Isaac out of the equation for this game. Again, Jonathan Isaac is healthy. He's hit his game's played mark already. He's been able to get through the season. Just kind of a coach's decision of what the Magic need at this moment. The Orlando Magic defeat the Charlotte Hornets 111-104. That is a 3-game winning streak. It has happened before. It will happen again. The Magic again climbed to within a half game of the Atlanta Hawks for 7th in the Eastern Conference. And get this, the Magic number to clinch a play-in spot is 1. With a Magic win or a Raptors loss, the Magic will clinch their game 83 and a spot in the play-in tournament. The Magic number to clinch the 7-8 game is currently at 8 with 9 games to go. Still got a ways to go on that one. But the Magic are almost to that goal, reaching that goal that they had this season. And we'll see if the Magic can continue to push forward from there. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You can find me, of course, on Twitter at PhilipR_OMD, as well as on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, search your TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all Philly Style podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. As if all that's not enough, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter. It's the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic Newsletter. That's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll see you again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Magic. Until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.